Welcome to Table for 92, element number 47, silver. It's number 47 because it has exactly 47 protons within its nucleus. For silver, we're cooking up a couple Colorado lamb burgers. The Colorado Gold Rush may have started as such, but it was quickly realized that there was a lot more silver up in the Rockies, and it culminated in the largest silver nugget found pulled out of the smuggler mine near Aspen in 1894. It weighed 1,840 pounds. I lived in Colorado for a long time, and this is my favorite burger in the world. So yeah, silver has no biological role in the human body. I mean, you'll hear about colloidal silver as some new age treatment, but there's really nothing to it. The FDA has clearly said there is no benefit of colloidal silver, but silver does have a very long and very important history. It's caused mass migrations and wars. It's built and ruined economies on numerous occasions, and it's been with us for a very long time. It's one of the 7 elements that were known by ancient peoples before we really had a grasp of what elements actually were. Those 7 elements were known as the 7 metals of alchemy. Even though ancient peoples were unaware of the idea of individual elements, the 7 elements the ancients did know about were selected for very special reverence and were associated with the then known 7 heavenly bodies: the Sun, Moon, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. Silver was of course associated with the moon because of its color. I found this great picture from the Library of Congress that shows the association of the metals with the heavenly bodies, albeit in like Middle English. The quote is, "The moon cold and moist, benevolent, silver." I've never heard anyone refer to the moon as cold and moist. I find that a little unsettling. But yeah, the earliest silver mining we know of archaeologically is probably a little over 6,000 years ago in Anatolia in modern-day Turkey. But uses of silver definitely predate the mining of silver because, unlike most of the other metals on the periodic table, silver can actually be found in a pure state. I've got a little bit of native silver right here from Colorado that I found years ago. While not as rare or as coveted as gold, silver has still been extremely sought after. You know, we've all heard of King Tut, yeah? Well, there was actually one other intact Egyptian pharaoh's tomb that was discovered, Susenes I, who lived about 3,000 years ago, whose sarcophagus was made of silver, which would have been a lot more difficult to make than King Tut's golden one, since silver is a much harder metal, so it was probably worth more. But the reason you probably haven't heard of Susenes I is because the French archaeologists that discovered the tomb, it was found like right after World War II started, and it didn't get any kind of the media attention that King Tut did. But the first time silver was used as money was probably about 4,000 years ago in Babylon. However, you know, the first really like standardized coinage was probably first in Lydia in ancient Anatolia, modern day Turkey, about 2,600 years ago. It was made of a natural alloy of silver and gold named the electrum. The area around Lydia is very rich in mineral wealth, lots of gold, silver, and copper. The mythical king Midas, you know, the Midas touch story where everything he touches turns to gold, he was supposed to be the king of Lydia. But the coins back in antiquity were not that well made though. It was really just an impression of like the king's face pressed onto a piece of silver of the appropriate weight. The coins didn't have that nice edge on the coin that we have today, which make them so uniform. So the problem was that people would actually like clip off tiny slivers off the edges of the coins and collect the valuable metal until they had enough to make a new coin. So this was one of the many reasons a lot of ancient empires went through disastrous inflation and coin debasement. Like, you know, you never really knew the value of your coin or how much silver had, you know, already been clipped off of it. That problem wouldn't be solved for over 2,000 years until, surprisingly, Sir Isaac Newton became head of the British Mint and invented the grooved edges around coins specifically to stop thieves. I have a small coin collection, and here is a silver denier, silver coin from the reign of Hugh IV, Duke of Burgundy. This is about from the late 1200s. It's not worth a lot, but if you look at it, you can clearly see someone clipped the sides of this back in the day, even in, you know, a tiny little coin like this. Silver and gold have long been used as coinage, and you can a lot of times see empires grow and fall with what's going on with the silver. As the Roman Republic and later Empire slaughtered their way through the Mediterranean, they took over silver mines, especially in Spain, which they fought over for like hundreds of years. But as the empire bloated and eventually receded and, started to fall apart, the silver in the coinage reflected their economic problems. In 98 CE, the main coin of the Roman Empire, the denarius, was 98% silver. By 200 CE, it was 50% silver. When the empire really started falling apart in the 400s, the silver content was like 2%. 1,000 years later, silver would be a godsend for the Spanish Empire. They brutally took over much of the Americas and found fabulous silver wealth in the mines of Potosí in modern-day Bolivia. But the Spanish were incredibly brutal to the miners there. They forced native peoples to mine using mercury to extract the silver, and it was brutal. Like, it's thought hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of workers died as a result. One report I read from the 1800s said 1 in 5 workers would die within the first years in the mines. But because the Potosí mine was so rich, the Spanish didn't really care about the health of the people. They enslaved and worked to death. The mine started in 1845, and over the next 200 years, something like 80% of the world's silver came from Potosí. That ended up, in the end, kind of screwing over the Spanish Empire, though. They stole all that wealth and hoarded it back in Europe, and what we now call the price revolution, where the influx of silver caused huge inflation and the eventual weakening of Spain's economy. And next, it was Colorado's turn. The Colorado Gold Rush in 1859 turned mostly into a silver rush after a few years. The native people living there were either killed off or forced off the land, and the next 40 years saw ridiculous growth as the price of silver went up, and Colorado and Denver got very wealthy. But then you had the Panic of 1893, and that crashed the price of silver. And because nearly all business in Colorado at the time somehow was tied up with silver, a lot of mines closed and a lot of people went broke. I actually used to live in an apartment building in Denver that used to be a silver baron's mansion. They lost all their money and they just converted the mansions into small apartment buildings. The entire neighborhood was like that. Hundreds of these old mansions turned into apartments. So silver has been used in money up until just the last century. But even though we don't have silver on our coinage anymore, it's taken on a whole new role of importance in the world of electronics, because silver is a great electrical conductor and is now used in switchboards, TV screens, and switches. So, pretty much everything we love about the modern age is made with silver in mind. So, even though we don't covet silver as people did for most of civilization, we still crave it in a slightly different way. A little bit of Tabasco. That's just for me. Beautiful. Thank you. See you next time. If you like the periodic table of elements, please hit that subscribe button.